Hi. So the worst horror movies, what do you think they are? What is your worst horror movie that you've ever seen? Well, this list isn't my list of the worst. This is just the list that I came up with when I searched it online. So I looked at different websites and just kind of chose some movies from those. So the first one is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, with Jordana Brewster, Matt Bomer, narrated by John Arquette. Has Arlie Ermey in it, as well as the sheriff. Well, fake sheriff. But it's not. I don't know if it would be the worst, but it's just like another Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Like, you've seen one Jason or one Friday the 13th, you've seen them all just about. You've seen one Halloween, you've seen them all. You know, just some maniac going around killing people. So it's not any really different. Anyway, The Last Exorcism. Saw that in the theater, and that's the only time I saw it. Just seeing the woman fold backwards, it was kind of weird. But other than that, I mean, it really, you know, that's about the only kind of attitude I have towards it. You know, if you want to watch it, watch it. If you don't have to. It's just, you got a few hours to waste and don't have anything else to watch, and you see it on. See it. I wouldn't waste your money on it, though. The Fly 2 with Eric Stoltz and Daphne Zuniga. I think it's a watchable sequel. I mean, out of the Flies, it's probably the worst. But other than that, you know, as I said, it's watchable, and I don't mind it. So I watch it occasionally if I see it on, or if it's on Netflix, I'll watch it. But I'm not going to go out of my way to see it. So Maximum Overdrive, I believe, has Emilio Estevez. I've seen like all these 10 except for one. But this one I really don't remember. So I have to, yeah, Emilio Estevez. I just have to rewatch it. But let's see. A group of people try to survive when machines start to come alive and become homicidal. Yeah. Came out in 1986. Alright. Yeah, I barely remember that one. House of the Dead. House of the Dead. I don't think, actually, I didn't see that one. But let's see here. These buttons are too small for my fingers. House of the Dead came out in 2003. It has Clint Howard in it. It's about the only person I really know. I don't know anyone else in it. A group of college students travel to a mysterious island to attend a rave, which is soon taken over by bloodthirsty zombies. And is it... No, it's not. Okay. Pronounce this. U-W-E. Uwe Boll. U-W-E. I don't know what that's his first name, but that's who directed it. Uwe Boll. Interesting name. So yeah, The Devil Inside. I didn't think that was a bad movie. Let's see, it's yeah. Count the cuts. I think that's what she says. Cuts. Right? The Devil Inside. I didn't think that was all that bad. It was like a found footage type movie, and it just kind of ended. I like movies with an ending, not really movies that don't have an ending, because when it just ends and there's like, if there's going to be a second part, that's one thing where it continues, but when it's just a movie on its own and it just ends, you're like, well, you have all these questions. Well, what happened? What's going to go on? What's all these questions? So that's when I guess you just answer the questions yourself. Well, this is what I want to have happen to her or him or whatever. You just come up with your own ending, which could be better. Devil Inside came out in 2012, and it's about, let's see, in Italy, a woman becomes involved in a series of unauthorized exorcisms during her mission to discover what happened to her mother, who allegedly murdered 3 people during her own exorcism. Yeah. The one I definitely didn't see, has Mark Wahlberg in it. Came out 2008. Called The Happening. M. Night Shyamalan. See, I really don't know how to pronounce the last name. But M. Night, you know, director of The Sixth Sense, he directed it, and has John Leguizamo and Zooey Deschanel, who I like her. Mainly in Failure to Launch. But other than that, it's I haven't really seen it. It's a science teacher, his wife, and a young girl struggle to survive a plague that causes those infected to commit suicide. Yeah, there's a movie you want to see. Yeah, it's happening. Okay, the sequel to Blair Witch is Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows, which really isn't a sequel. It's just, that one I agree, that's pretty bad. I didn't like it. I saw it in the theater, I walked out, and I was like, okay. And? So, see, the Blair Witch Project, the first movie, the movie itself wasn't scary. It's what goes on in your head after you see it and thinking about it. That's what makes it the freaky part. Because you can easily get lost in the woods. And it gets dark. You have to stay there. And you hear noises in the woods. And your imagination runs wild. And all, you know, it's just... that right there, that's what made it kind of scary. Is that kind of thinking after you see it. The movie itself isn't. It's just like, yeah. And that is kind of freaky. I mean, you could walk around, you're not prepared. They were prepared, I think, with tents and stuff. But you could be out there, maybe hiking or camping or whatever, and you come across this cabin that someone may have lived in at one time. I don't know. That's just, see, that right there, just that right there, just is freaky. Just the thinking part. But the Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows, I mean, at least it wasn't handheld. At least it was actually kind of like a movie, filmed like a movie. So, yeah, see, I don't know. A group of tourists arrive in Burkittsville, Maryland, after seeing the Blair Witch Project, and to explore the mythology and phenomenon, only to come face to face with their own neurosis and possibly the witch. Yeah. Yeah, thumbs down on that one. This next one, Paranormal Activity. It just depends if you are a fan of those type films, of like kind of found footage, handheld type movies. Came out in 2007. Movie to me, it was okay. It was kind of boring a little bit. Some parts here and there that were okay. The ending should be a 3D part. If you've seen the movie, in the very tail ending of the movie, where Micah gets thrown at the camera, 3D shot right there. Whoosh. But other than that, After moving into a suburban home, a couple becomes increasingly disturbed by nightly demonic presence. Yeah, I mean, it's entertaining and stuff, but yeah, some of the stuff, some stuff's kind of a little bit laughable, and like, yeah, right, that's not gonna ever happen. Whatever. So, and then I don't know if this is the number 1 worst horror film. I think it is. It's been a while since I've seen this, but I have seen it. It's been a while, and it gets this really bad rep of being the worst sequel ever, or sequel for one, and also being the worst horror film. It is The Exorcist 2: The Heretic. Linda Blair reprises her role as Reagan. You know, I know she, Richard Burton is also in it. Louise Fletcher. It's only 4 years later. What does she remember? Came out in 1977. A teenage girl once possessed by a demon finds that it still lurks within her. Meanwhile, a priest investigates the death of the girl's exorcist. Yeah, see, I kind of want to see it again. It's been a while, as I said. You know what? I think it also has James Earl Jones in it. See, some of these older films has, you know, Max von Sydow reprises his role. James Earl Jones is in it, Ned Beatty. So you got some, you know, some good actors in it. It's just the story. You know, I guess people were were disappointed in it. But actually, you know, the director, John Borman, he's known as being quite realistic, kind of like William Friedkin. He likes things realistic, so I have to watch that again for the realistic part. See if that was part of his thing back then versus in the 90s. So, yeah. Let's see. Yep. 77. So, do you agree being the worst horror film ever being The Exorcist 2: The Heretic? See, I have to come up with my own list, but I don't know if that would be on there or not. It might be. I've seen some pretty bad horror films, and that is nowhere it. I don't think that'll make my top 10. I really don't. Because there's some, like, B movies and C movies, whatever, that are just, like, which I've seen and maybe own. Some, like, old, like, 70s, 80s, 60s type horror. That's pretty bad. So, yeah. So anyway, let's recap, okay? Recap. As I say, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning, the last Exorcism, The Fly 2, Maximum Overdrive, House of the Dead, The Devil Inside, The Happening, Blair Witch 2, The Heretic, Paranormal Activity, and of course, The Exorcist 2, The Heretic. So, agree, disagree, comment me. Let me know. What was your worst horror film that you've ever seen? Tomorrow, I think, is another worst of, but I think it's the worst, it is the worst Disney animated films. Not just worst Disney films like I did last night, but the worst Disney animations. So, stay tuned for tomorrow. Oh, and thanks for watching Flix Talk, y'all. I'm Nia.